It's pitch black outside. The lamp flickers on and off, reminding you of how little gas there's left in the generator. Will it be enough? You're startled by a noise from another room. Readying yourself for the worst, you sharpen your ears and raise your weapon. There are more noises. You're now praying for daylight. Suddenly you're attacked. A fight ensues as red light starts to break through the cracks in the walls, and suddenly, with a bright flash of white light, it's over. You made it. If you've played Darkwood before, you should be very familiar with the scenario I just described. It happens more or less every night of the game, but what helps make it so intense isn't just the well-crafted gameplay and terrifying monsters. It's the musical genius behind the rising strings that signal the end of the night, the calming, hopeful, yet slightly ominous track that follows, and every other masterfully crafted piece of music in this game. I love Darkwood. It's one of the best games I've ever played. And so in this video, I'm going to be analyzing the soundtrack that makes up an integral part of the Darkwood experience. If you haven't played the game for yourself, I really would encourage you to go and do so before watching this video. Okay, let's get into it. This is the main theme of Darkwood. It's the first thing you hear when you boot up the game, and it also plays each time you open the pause menu. To me, it sets a precedent for the entirety of the game's soundtrack, with its unsettling melody and low droning sounds. Through its uncomfortable character, it warns you to respect the woods, be patient and focus long before the game tells you explicitly. The drums beat like the heart of the forest. The woods are alive. They're too alive, and you're an insignificant visitor in their vast domain. But there's also a faint glimpse of hope behind the rising strings. As the drums get more varied, more rapid, you feel encouraged to move on, to strive. The music is warning you to stay on your feet. This will be a tough challenge, but maybe, just maybe, you could do it. Anger, guilt, fear. This track conveys the emotions of the Doctor as he tries his best to save the dying villagers, his actions so absolutely in vain. You hear the wails of the sick. Are they coming from out there or from in here, from the Doctor's own mind? It's getting hard to tell the difference. Every night a new nightmare, haunted by inadequacy. The people he tried so desperately to help now hate him. Whoever the Doctor was before all this began, he's now a broken man. His wife and daughter scream with the rest. They beg for him to come home. But he can't. He can't anymore. The woods are too thick. It's too late to leave. He made his choice already. And he failed everyone. The droning carries you like a wave. It's hard to tell that you're dreaming, because this whole damn forest is like a living nightmare. You hear cries of suffering, screams in the distance, maybe those lost to the forest. The music makes you feel very uncomfortable. You want to wake up as soon as possible, much like a real nightmare. The track generates a terrifyingly ethereal atmosphere. It's perfect for those strange and unsettling dream sequences. Now, every Darkwood player knows this piece. It plays during the nighttime, when you're huddled up against the wall, with your weapon in hand, listening carefully for monsters in the dark. One of the constant whistling sounds stand out to me in particular. It sounds almost like 1,000 ghosts whispering, each whisper fading into the next, creating a constant, deep cry. It feels as if the shadows themselves are reaching out to you, letting you know that the night is theirs, and certain death awaits you if you try to leave your hideout and enter into their domain, into the darkness. It reinforces this feeling of the woods being alive in some sort of freak way, like a reanimated corpse. And just think of that for a second. Darkwood is so good at handling atmosphere that it manages to make us feel that the woods being alive is a terrifying experience. That's wild. The woods are alive, it's a beautiful thing in real life. But in Darkwood? In Darkwood, all we want is to burn the whole damn thing to the ground. This track is a great case in point of how the strings used in a lot of Darkwood's music blend together with the sounds of actual screams, making it hard to tell if you're hearing a string or a scream. It makes you question throughout the game whether you're hearing someone crying out for help or whether it's just the music tricking you. When I say it out loud, it feels like a minor detail, but I really don't think it is. I think it greatly helps to immerse you into the experience. Because if the music wasn't crafted like this, if you never questioned whether you were hearing someone in the game or just the soundtrack, you wouldn't necessarily feel as paranoid when playing as you do. And that's what I love about Darkwood's soundtrack. It feels so humble, so unintrusive, yet it's unintrusive like grey clouds rolling in over the horizon are unintrusive. They are just clouds. I mean, who cares? But before you know it, you're soaking wet. Just like Darkwood's soundtrack sneaks in while you're distracted by the gameplay and then soaks you in atmosphere. This track is called Wedding. It plays at a location also known as The Wedding, and just like the previous track, the background noises consist of ethereal cries. The music feels haunted. So does the barn where you hear it. You don't feel welcomed at the wedding. Or maybe in some way you do, because you were invited after all, but even so it feels like you're not meant to be here, like you're intruding and should really just get out of there. And once you meet the groom, that feeling quickly starts to intensify. This is where the music picks up and entangles itself with the gameplay. It's a stunningly well-crafted sequence, and to dissect it, I think first we have to watch it. Try to pay attention to how the music complements the gameplay. Did you notice how the rhythmic sound of the groom hitting his head against the table became the beat of the track? Or how the bride's knocking on the door synced up perfectly with the music? The harmony between the audio and the gameplay makes this a truly memorable sequence. Now let's return to where we began, with the end of the night theme. This, along with New Dawn, which I'll cover in a second, is one of my favorite themes in the entire game. I can't begin to describe the mixed feelings of tension and hope I start to feel when my ears pick up on the rising strings in the background, signaling the end of the night. And I think it varies from player to player, even from night to night, when exactly you realize the strings have started to play, which, once again, is one of the key features of Darkwood's soundtrack. The fact that it so subtly implants itself into the experience, while at the same time having huge impact. And the transition from End of the Night to New Dawn? Oh, it's so pleasant. Just listen to that. I love it so much, especially when the additional strings kick in and the piano starts to play. Oh, it's such a beautiful track. The melody isn't even happy, it's somber. It mimics the feelings that the stranger must be experiencing, knowing that he cannot get complacent or the next night will be his last. If I had to give one reason why you should play Darkwood, it would be to experience an intense night for yourself, just to barely make it through. And then, once the white light dissipates, get to listen to this piece while boarding up windows and getting ready for the next night. It's a truly unique feeling that you have to experience for yourself. It's been many days, many nights, a burnt down tree, or maybe a psychedelic trip in a radio tower. But now you're finally here, walking down the road in the picture you've been carrying with you since the first day. The road home. You've left so many behind, but at least you made it out. The track is quite simple. The low droning sounds we're so used to hearing are all but gone because we're out of the forest, out of the whispering trees. The screams in the background become distant, and yet something feels wrong. We've left the woods, but maybe the woods haven't left us. Just yet. Okay, listen to those strings. Do they remind you of anything? They sound like the ones we hear in New Dawn, so is that where we are now? At the end of a long, dark night that's been the entirety of this game so far? Finally, at a new dawn? The track is called Last Hideout, but it doesn't play in the swamp. It plays once we finally make it out of the forest. But why? I thought we were done hiding out. Aren't we free at last from the tyranny of the woods? The track, which started out calm and peaceful, now grows more intense. This isn't really the end. Someone wants you to think it is. Something. It wants you to go back to sleep, to forget all this ever happened. But are you just gonna do that? Or are you done playing games? This track is truly another mark of genius. I never realized how similar it sounds to New Dawn before listening to it closely. It's mimicking that peace we now know so well and have come to associate with relative safety. The break of dawn is the only time in the game we truly let our guard down. And now whatever is behind this whole nightmare is using that against us. But Last Hideout isn't as calming as New Dawn. It rapidly breaks away from the simple strings and takes on a more threatening tone. It can't fool us, not anymore. Go back to sleep, it's ordering us. But we won't. This isn't over yet. You were right. Something's horribly wrong. You found the literal and metaphorical roots of the sickness right beneath your own apartment building. The evil that has plagued and tortured you and everyone else throughout the game, it's right here below your feet. The droning background noises return full force, but they're now ominous and impending. The place is full of people, but they're not really people anymore. Even the doctor is here, although you could have sworn you killed him back in the forest. These lost souls have given in to the will of the being and thereby offered up their own. You can't save them, just like you couldn't save the trader, the musician, or anyone else from the forest for that matter. But you could stop this from spreading any further. End the suffering and the corruption. All of this torture. You, of course, don't expect to make it out yourself, but self-preservation has become the least of your concerns. There's someone here who's like yourself, an outsider. He's clutching a deadly weapon, but that's no problem. You rip it from his grasp, checking to see if it still works. Bingo. You're done respecting the woods. It's time to end this, once and for all. The cries of the damned can be heard louder and clearer than ever before, but just like with your dog in the beginning of the game, keeping these poor souls alive wouldn't help them at all. This is a mercy killing. And for once, the stranger feels in control. He has outsmarted the doctor, the woods, this being, whatever it is. There's no stopping you. You know you're not making it out alive, but this thing has to die. Finally, the heartbeat of the woods flatline. And it's over. There is not a single track in Darkwood that makes you feel truly safe. At best, the music gives you a slight bit of relief from the madness, a reason to carry onward through this gloomy hellscape. And at worst, it makes you feel broken, terrified, alone, hopeless. And that's why Darkwood has an absolutely dreadful sound design. In the best way possible. Thank you so much for watching. If you still haven't played Darkwood yet, I'd once again greatly encourage you to try it out. It's 15 euros on Steam at full price, and it's worth every cent. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know how the soundtrack made you feel. I'd love to know if the music invoked different feelings in you than it did in me. I'll try to respond to every comment. Have a lovely day.